Embarking, they sat down, each in his place, and struck the grey salt water with the oars. Behind our dark proud ship the dreadful goddess Circe sent friendly wind to fill the sails. We worked efficiently to organize the rigging, and the breeze and pilot steered. Then, with an anxious heart, I told the crew, "My friends, the revelation Circe shared with me should not be kept a secret, known to me alone. I will share them with you, and we can die in knowledge of the truth or else escape. She said we must avoid the voices of the otherworldly sirens, steer past their flowering meadow, and she says that I alone should hear their singing. Bind me to keep me upright at the mast, wound round with rope. If I beseech you and command you to set me free, you must increase my bonds and chain me even tighter." So I told them each detail. Soon our well-built ship, blown fast by fair winds, neared the island of the Sirens, and suddenly the wind died down. Calm came. Some spirit lulled the waves to sleep. The men got up, pulled down the sails, and stowed them in the hollow hold. They sat at oar and made the water whiten, struck by polished wood. I gripped a wheel of wax between my hands and cut it small, firm kneading, and the sunlight warmed it, and then I rubbed it in the ears of each man in turn. They bound my hands and feet straight upright at the mast. They sat and hit the sea with oars. We traveled fast, and when we were in earshot of the Sirens, they knew our ship was near and started singing. "Odysseus, come here. You are well known from many stories. Glory of the Greeks. Now stop your ship and listen to our voices. All those who pass this way hear honeyed song poured from our mouths." The music brings them joy, and they go on their way with greater knowledge, since we know everything the Greeks and Trojans suffered in Troy, by God's will, and we know whatever happens anywhere on earth. Their song was so melodious I longed to listen more. I told my men to free me. I scowled at them, but they kept rowing on. Eurylochus and Perimedes stood and tied me even tighter with more knots. But when we were well past them and I could no longer hear the singing of the sirens, I nodded to my men, and they removed the wax that I had used to plug their ears, and untied me. When we had left that island, I saw a mighty wave and smoke, and heard a roar. The men were terrified. Their hands let fall the oars. They splashed down in the water. The ship stayed still, since no one now was pulling the slender blades. I strode along the deck, pausing to cheer each man, then gave a speech to rally all of them. Dear friends, we are experienced in danger. This is not worse than the time the Cyclops captured us and forced us to remain inside his cave. We got away that time, thanks to my skill and brain and strategy. Remember that. Come on then, all of you, and trust my words. Sit on your benches, strike the swelling deep with oars, since Zeus may grant us a way out from this disaster as well. Pilot, listen, these are your orders. As you hold the rudder, direct the ship away from that dark smoke and rising wave, and head towards the rock. If the ship veers the other way, you will endanger us. They promptly followed orders. I did not mention Scylla, since she meant inevitable death, and if they knew, the men would drop the oars and go and huddle down in the hold in fear. So we rode through the narrow strait in tears. On one side Scylla, on the other shining Charybdis, with a dreadful gurgling noise sucked down the water. When she spewed it out, she seethed, all churning like a boiling cauldron on a huge fire. The froth flew high to spatter the topmost rocks on either side. But when she swallowed back the sea, she seemed all stirred from inside, and the rock around was roaring dreadfully, and the dark blue sand below was visible. The men were seized by fear, but while our frightened gaze was on Charybdis, Scylla snatched 6 men from the ship, my strongest, best fighters. Looking back from down below, I saw their feet and hands up high, as they were carried off. In agony they cried to me, and called my name, their final words. Those men gasped as Scylla lifted them high to her rocky cave, and at the entrance devoured them, still screaming, still reaching out to me in their death throes. That was the most heart-rending sight I saw in all the time I suffered on the sea. Free from the rocks of Scylla and Charybdis, we quickly reached the island of the god, Hyperion's son, Helios, the sun god. There were his cattle, with their fine, broad faces, and many flocks of well-fed sheep. The men got out and skillfully cooked dinner. When they were satisfied with food and drink, they wept, remembering their dear companions, whom Scylla captured from the ship and devoured. Sweet sleep came down upon them as they cried. When night was over, when the stars were gone, Zeus roused a blast of wind, an eerie storm. He covered earth and sea with fog, and darkness fell from the heavens. When rose-fingered dawn appeared, we dragged the ship inside a cave, a place nymphs danced in, and we moored it there. I then gave a speech to my assembled men. My friends, we have supplies on board. Let us not touch the cattle, or we will regret it. Those cows and fat sheep are the property of Helios, the great sun god who sees and hears all things. I told them this. Reluctantly they yielded, but that month the south wind blew and never stopped. No other was ever blowing, only south and east. While the men still had food and wine, they kept clear of the cows. They hoped to save their lives, but when our ship's supplies ran out, the men were forced to hunt. They used their hooks to catch both fish and birds, whatever they could get, since hunger gnawed at their bellies. I strode off to pray, in case some god would show me how to get back home. I left my men behind and crossed the island, washed my hands, in shelter out of the wind, and prayed to all the gods. They poured sweet sleep upon my eyes. Meanwhile, Eurylochus proposed a foolish plan. Listen, my friends, you have already suffered so much. All human deaths are hard to bear, but starving is most miserable of all. So let us poach the finest from these cattle and sacrifice them to the deathless gods. If we get home to Ithaca, at once we will construct a temple to the sun god with treasure within it. If he is so angry of these cows that he decides to wreck our ship, and if the other gods agree, I would prefer to drink the sea and die at once than perish slowly, shriveled up here on this desert island. All the others agreed with him. They went to poach the best of Helios's cattle, which were grazing beside the ship. The men surrounded them and called upon the gods. They had plucked leaves from oak trees. On the ship there was no barley. They prayed, then killed them. They had no wine to pour libations over the burning offering, but they made do with water, and they roasted all the innards. And when the thighs were burned, the entrails sprinkled. They cut the other meat up into chunks for skewers. Sweet sleep melted from my eyes. I rushed back to the ship beside the shore. When I was close, the meaty smell of cooking enfolded me. I groaned. On the shore, beside my ship, I scowled at each of them. It did no good. Cows were dead already. For 6 days my men banqueted on beef from Helios. When Zeus, the son of Cronos, led in the 7th day, the wind became less stormy, and we quickly went on board. We set the mast up and unfurled the sails and sailed out on the open sea. When we had left that island, we could see no other, only the dark sky and sea. Zeus made a mass of dark blue storm clouds hang above our ship. The sea grew dark beneath it. For a moment the ship moved on, but then came Zephyr, shrieking noisily, rushing with torrential tempest. A mighty gust of wind broke off both forestays. The tackling was all scattered in the hold. The mast was broken backwards, and it struck the pilot in the stern and smashed his skull. His bones were crushed, his skeleton smashed. He fell down like a diver from the deck. His spirit left his body. At that instant Zeus thundered and hurled bolts to strike the ship. Shaken, it filled with sulfur. All the men fell overboard, and they were swept away. The gods prevented them from ever reaching home. I myself lashed the keel and mast together and rode them, carried on by fearsome winds. At last the tempest ceased. The west wind lulled. I worried that the south wind might compel me to backtrack to the terrible Charybdis. All night I was swept backwards. I drifted for 9 days. On the evening of the 10th, the gods helped me to reach the island of the dreadful, beautiful, divine Calypso. She loved and cared for me. Why should I tell the story that I told you and your wife yesterday in our house? It is aggravating, repeating tales that have been told before. Book 13. After he finished, all was silent, spellbound, sitting inside the shadowy hall. At last Alcinous said, "Now, Odysseus, since you had been my guest beneath my roof, you need not wander any more. You have endured enough. You will get home again." The king's words pleased them all. They went back home to rest. Then Dawn was born again. Her fingers bloomed. The holy king killed sacrificial meat, a cow to Zeus of dark clouds, son of Kronos, who rules this world. They burned the thighs and feasted in happiness. The well-respected singer Demodocus made music in their midst. But all the while Odysseus kept turning his head towards the shining sun, impatient for it to set. He longed to leave. At once he told the seafaring Phaeacians, especially Alcinous. "Great king, and all of you, please send me safely home with offerings, and thank you. I am grateful to you for giving me my heart's desire, a passage home with gifts. I hope the gods maintain my luck. When I am home, I pray to find my wife still faultless, and my loved ones safe. And may you Phaeacians live to bring joy to your wives and children, every blessing. I pray there is no more trouble for your people." They praised his words and said that they must help their guest go home since he had spoken so well. The ship's crew spread a sheet and blanket out on the stern deck of the hollow ship so he could sleep there soundly. Climbing on, he lay there quietly. The rowers sat down on the benches calmly and then loosed the cable from the mooring stone. They pulled, leaning back hard. The oar blade splashed the water. A sound, sweet sleep fell on his eyes, like death. He did not stir. The seething waves of sounding purple sea rushed round the stern as she sped straight ahead. But when the brightest star that carries news of the coming dawn rose up to the sky, the sea-borne ship neared land. On either side of it there are sheer cliffs that jut across the bay. They shelter it and keep big waves outside when storm winds blow. The ships remain in harbor without a tether once they cross its bounds. At the bay's head there grows a long-leafed olive, and near it is a beautiful dark cave, a holy place of sea nymphs, Nereids. They rode inside the bay. They knew the place of old. Their arms were pulling at top speed. The ship was traveling so fast that when she reached dry land, she beached for half her length. They disembarked and lifted from the ship, Odysseus, wrapped up in sheets and blankets. They then set him on the sand, still fast asleep. They unpacked all the presents he was given by the Phaeacian lords to take back home, thanks to Athena's care. They heaped the things beside the olive tree so no one passing would do them any damage while their owner was sleeping. They then rode away back home. Odysseus, who had been sleeping in his own native land of Ithaca, woke up but did not recognize the place from which he had been absent for so long. Pallas Athena cast a mist upon it. The friendly harbors and the winding paths and leafy trees were all quite unfamiliar to their own king. He leapt up to his feet and looking at his native land, he groaned and smacked his thighs and sobbed. Where am I now? Are those who live here violent and cruel, or are they kind to strangers, folks who fear the gods? Where can I carry all my treasure, and where can I go wandering? If only I had remained there in Phaeacia, till I went on to some other mighty king, who might have been my friend and helped me home. Where can I leave my things? Not here for sure. They will be stolen. Those Phaeacian lords were not so trustworthy then. They promised me that they would bring me home to Ithaca. They broke their word and brought me somewhere else. May Zeus, who helps the needy, make them pay. Zeus watches everyone and punishes the sinner. Let me count my treasure now. They may have stolen some when they sailed off. He counted all the tripods, cauldrons, gold, and cloth, but none was missing. Then he paced up beside the loud, resounding sea, hunched up with homesickness and sobbing in his grief. Athena came towards him. She looked like a shepherd, young and soft-skinned as a prince, wearing a folded mantle of fine cloth across her shoulders. On her tender feet were sandals, and she held a javelin. Odysseus was overjoyed to see her. He cried, "Oh, friend, you are the very first person that I have met here. Greetings. Please be kind. Protect my treasure and myself. I pray to you and supplicate as if you were a god." "I touch your knees. Please help me. And tell me, please, what is this place? An island? Or is it a peninsula that slopes toward the sea from fertile mainland fields? Who lives here?" And with twinkling eyes the goddess said, "Stranger, you must be a foreigner from distant parts, or foolish since you ask about this famous country. Foreigner, I think the name of Ithaca is known even in Troy, a land they say is far away from Greece." Odysseus, who had endured so much, so long, was overjoyed to hear from her that he was in his own dear native land. His words took wing and flew, but he did not tell her the truth. He bit his story back. His mind was always full of clever schemes. "Yes, I have heard of Ithaca, although I come from distant Crete. Now I am here with all this wealth. I left an equal share of riches for my children back home." "I am an exile. On the fields of Crete I killed Oresilochus, the speedy sprinter, the son of Idomeneus the king. I had refused to serve or help his father at Troy. I led my own men, and after I murdered him I quickly rode away to visit the Phoenicians and gave them a share of loot which made them very glad. I told them that they should transport me to Pylos, or famous Elis, ruled by the Epeans. But storm winds drove them off, away from there, against their will. They did not mean to trick me. So swept off course we came here in the night. We rowed at top speed into harbor, hungry, but none of us took any thought of dinner. We disembarked, and all lay down right there. Sweet sleep enfolded me. I was exhausted. They took my treasure from the ship and set it beside me as I slept upon the sand, and then they sailed away to well-built Sidon, and I was left here grieving. As his words met Athena, she smiled into his eyes. She took his hand and changed her body to a woman's, beautiful, tall, and skilled in all the arts. Her words were light as feathers. To outwit you in all your tricks, a person or a god would never need to be an expert at deceit. You clever rascal, so duplicitous, so talented at lying. You love fiction and tricks so deeply you refuse to stop even in your own land. Yes, both of us are smart. No man can plan and talk like you. I am known among the gods for insight and craftiness. You fail to recognize me. I am Athena, child of Zeus. I always stand near you and take care of you in all your hardships. I made sure that you are welcomed by the Phaeacians. I have come here now to weave a plan with you and hide the treasure which, thanks to me, they gave you to take home. I will reveal the challenges you face at home. This is your fate, and you must bear it bravely, not telling any man or woman that you have finished wandering and come back. Suffer in silence, bear their brutal treatment. Odysseus, still wary, answered, "Goddess, even the smartest man may find it hard to recognize you. You disguise yourself so many ways." I do know that you helped me during the Trojan War so long ago, but when we Greeks had sacked the town of Priam and we embarked and gods dispersed our fleet, I did not see you there on board my ship, daughter of Zeus. You gave me no protection. Lost and confused, I waited for the gods to free me from my pain. Please, by your father Zeus, I cannot think that this is Ithaca. I must be elsewhere. You want to fool me and make fun of me? Tell me the truth. Is this my own dear home? With glowing eyes, she said, "You always have such keen intellect, and that is why I cannot leave you when you need my help. You have such intuition and such focus. An ordinary man would rush straight home to see his wife and children when he reached his country after such a journey. You decided not to even ask about them until you test your wife. She sits at home, passing each night in misery, each day in tears. For my part, I have never doubted. I felt sure in my heart you would get home after the loss of all your men." But I did not want to conflict with my father's brother, Poseidon, who resented you because you blinded his beloved son. Now I will show you Ithaca, so you believe. This is the bay of Phorcys, ancient sea god, and at the head there is an olive tree with long leaves, and nearby the shady cave sacred to nymphs called Nereids, to whom you sacrificed so many 100 cattle. And here is Neraton, the wooded mountain. With that the goddess made the mist disperse. The land was visible. Odysseus, after so long a wait and so much pain, was filled with happiness at last. In joy he kissed the fertile earth of his own home country. Athena looked straight into his eyes and said, "Be brave. You need not worry. Let us hurry now. We must make plans." The two sat down against the sacred olive, and they planned how to destroy the suitors. Eyes aglow, Athena said, "Great King Laertes' son, master of plots and plans, Odysseus, think how to strike the suitors. For 3 years they have been lording in your house and courting your godlike wife with gifts. She always longs for your return and grieves. She leads them on with promises and messages to each, but her mind moves elsewhere. Odysseus cried. So, goddess, now weave me a strategy to pay them back. Stand by me, give me courage and the drive to fight, as when I broke the shining crown of Troy. If you will join me with that zeal and help me, goddess queen, I could do battle against 300 men at once.